All right, try number 61. The directions say solve each equation with the quadratic formula. It's a good tool to always be able to use for solving a quadratic equation. So we got to set it equal to 0 before we do that, though. So we get 2x squared minus 32 equals 0. And so now, remember, your template is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we have it set to equal to 0. The 2 is your a value. The c value is negative 32. There is no b because there is no x term. So that's the opposite to b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. Simplify what's inside the square root first. 0 squared is 0. Careful, this is like a negative 4, right, folks? I like to chop slash. You have 8 times 32. 256. Oh, it's positive because you had a negative times a negative. So really we have a negative 0, which we don't need. So positive or negative square root of 256, which is 16 over 4. So you have positive 16 over 4 and negative 16 over 4, which is positive 4 and negative 4. There we are. That was fun. Let's try this one. Set it equal to 0, so we subtract 6. You get 2x squared plus 10x minus 132 equals 0. So your a value is 2, your b value is 10, and your c value is negative 132. Holy cow. We could factor out a 2. We'll proceed as is. So you get the opposite of b, which is negative 10, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times 2. Clean up what's in the square root. We've got Mr. P grabbing a calculator. So we have 4 times 132. Wow, 1,056. And that's a positive 1,056 because it was a negative times a negative again. So we get negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 1,156 all over 4. What's the square root of that? I bet it's a thing. 34. Did y'all know that? I'm just kidding. I use a calculator too. Negative 10 plus or minus 34 over 4. And so here, folks, is where we do the split. We take the negative 10 and the 4 on the bottom, and we add 34. And then we take the negative 10 and the 4 on the bottom, and we subtract 34. And you clean this up. You get 24 over 4 on top, which is 6. So 6 is an answer. And you get negative 44 over 4, which is negative 11, which is an answer. In other words, if you plugged either of these values in, if you plugged 6 in for x, or if you plugged negative 11 in for x, you should make the equation true. You should get a 6 out in your calculator because they were asking what equals 6 in the original equation. Let's try number 69 because I have more space there. So I'm going to add 10 and add 10. So I get 4v squared plus 12v minus 55. So here is my A, my B, and my C. The opposite of B. Oh, I should do one more after this. Plus or minus the square root of B. Can you close the door, Lucy? B squared minus 4AC. B squared minus 4 times A times C is negative 55 all over 2 times A, which is 4. Alrighty, let's simplify this. So inside that radical, we get, change colors, 144, and then again, you're going to have a negative times a negative, 220 times 8 would be 880. Oops. 880 from all this stuff. So that's the square root of 900, 1024. All over 8. Square root of 1024, oh, that's, I don't know, I'm going to have to use a calculator. $32. You know, you can just, like if you're using Chrome, you can just type SQRT and then the number in there. Oops, 32. And again, we do this split now. So we take negative 12 plus 32 over 8 and negative 12 minus 32 over 8. So on top we get 20 over 8, which is the same as 10 over 4, which is the same as 5 over 2, or 2.5. On the bottom we get negative 44 over 8, which is the same as negative 5.5, or negative, 11 over 2. There we are. The one thing I was going to say is right here, when your b value is negative, we'll get, subtract 11 over here. So we get 6v squared minus 7v minus 68. A is 6, B is negative 7, C is negative 68. So we do the opposite of B, which is actually a positive 7, plus or minus the square root. I'm going to do something that's completely wrong here for a second. Do not do this. Oh boy, this is bad. Don't do that. Yes, my b value is negative 7. You got to put parentheses around that, folks, because anytime you square a negative number, you get a positive. And if you don't have these red parentheses around this, folks, your calculator says negative 49 because it does 7 times 7, which is 49, and then it takes a negative of that. This right now says negative 7 times negative 7. The way I was pretty smart back in the day, what I realized is, you know what, whenever you square this term, the Pythagorean theorem looks like this. You're never going to get a negative out of that, ever. So don't even bother putting a negative in here. When your b value is negative, don't put a negative in here for b squared. Just put in 7 and square it. Save yourself making that one sign, because when you square something, it's positive, and it always reduces the chance of some goof up happening. In fact, then you don't even have to write the parentheses either, because you will get a positive 49 out there. So